Would you like me to wear your arm, You look cute.
Mm-hmm.
See, can you hear me? You're muted.
Yeah, we got
Oh
you.
yeah. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, what a cute back.
There's Mommy Nat in the background looking
That's
over our shoulder.
sweet.
It's great.
How you doing?
You know what? I'm okay at the moment.
Okay.
The last 72 hours were rough, but since I took a walk today, the last 2 weeks were rough. Let me say that. But
I mean,
if Rachel doesn't have time over there, before she leaves tomorrow, I'll go do some.
She got some, but obviously I
I'll
think
see if we can find some
in the amount.
in between 1952 and 1982, maybe.
Yeah, we're trying to get the whole picture here.
Some when her hair was brown.
Ooh, I got the one from Shuli, so we got one.
It's like a
That
little.
one from Shuli was great.
Yeah.
And Tante said a couple where her hair's brown.
Ones that are like a group.
And we got some black and white ones where it's
Darker.
darker. Yeah.
Hey, Ethan.
Hey everyone.
man, my man, Abdullah man.
Hey, made it to Atlanta.
We
Did you
made it.
unload the food dogs?
We're finding a location where to unload them.
They're still
What?
in the car though.
No, the what?
The what?
It's like cement.
They're still in the car, Ethan.
Food dogs? What is that?
I'd have to show you a picture.
Is it a dog? A hot dog?
Janet Barron.
They're stone.
Jan
Chinese-
Barron, she's family, but she don't have to come on till 8.
Okay.
Let's just let only the grandkids in and the
Yeah.
Well, let Jan Barron on. The hell. If she's there, let her
No.
on.
We have things to discuss. I sent a note to the people in the waiting room to wait. They'll just wait. They'll wait another
My
minute.
vote is let them on.
No, I know your vote is, but we spent a lot of time organizing this. We're going to just do this right now. Oh, there's Yigdal. We'll admit him. Good. There he is.
I assumed YR qualified.
Pat, did you suggest using democracy at a time like this? That would be a terrible idea.
My first foray into
We're pretty much in an autocracy or whatever the term is in our country anyway right now. So we'll just
I believe
go with the flow.
traditionally when you answer to God, it would be called a theocracy. So perhaps that's where we are. We're in a theocracy.
No, we're in pure anarchy.
Our two senators today came out that they're gonna
Block
vote
it.
vote against the electoral college.
My God.
We're so
Damn
proud
right.
of them.
what kind of wine are y'all drinking, Eli?
Not we, just me. We made some Italian food for dinner, so I found a glass of red wine.
Some pasta.
Did you make pasta?
We did. We made lasagna. Well, we're making lasagna.
I'll send you a photo here.
Oh, good. Have you tried it or just you're making?
It's not out of the oven yet.
Okay.
But for those of you who are not aware, my birthday gift from my mother was automatic pasta maker rollers. So we're making lasagna with homemade pasta.
Nice. And goes with the bread baking you've been doing?
It's Pasta's actually, it's a little bit more difficult than I would have imagined. It's rewarding, I'll tell you that much. Asher had some. It tastes pretty good.
Okay, so
Kayla told me she likes pasta, so when she comes back to New York, she'll be available, I think.
okay, so we're just missing Hallel. We seem to have the AJ Robinson family.
I'll pretend I'm about a 90-year-old. I see Ethan's name, but he's in the AJ screen. I'm confused. Is there a plan for this evening?
Yes, there's a big plan. The first is to get Hallel on. She's coming on.
You're one of those people.
she
who
say
I
yes?
ask you what time it is. You say, or do you know what time it is? You say yes.
Then we're going to say hello to everybody here. Ethan is going to lead us in Havdalah. And, or else we can wait till everybody's on to do Havdalah. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to let everybody in when we've stopped talking to each other. So I want
Am I
to,
doing Abdullah for the family or for everyone?
what do you want to do, Ethan? You're in charge.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Don't care.
Where's Nathaniel?
Showering. She's coming.
Showering.
Did
Okay.
Hello say she was on the way? What
Yeah,
did she
she
say?
said she's just getting it set up. She's on the way. So I just want to know how everybody's doing up there in the frozen north and back in Atlanta. I'm glad you guys made it back. How was the trip?
Uneventful.
No.
Uneventful. Did you make the traditional Starbucks stop?
Of course.
And the Food Lion.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with just you guys is this week.
Come sit next to Dad.
This week of Shiva's going forward and seeing if some of you could step up and volunteer to be a Zoom tech for a night and just share that's Emery, that's Hallel, and share the responsibility around to be a co-host. There's Miss Robinson-Raphael. So before we,
You can change your name, Hello. Do you know how to do that?
Yiggs, come back.
Okay, she did it.
She did it. Yig Yig. Where'd he go now? Can you hear me, buddy? There he is.
Yes, I can hear you the whole time. Despite my video not feeding to you, I am still a part of this meeting very much.
Okay, so all right. So I wanted to see, somehow I can only see the top of Nathaniel's head there. I wanted to see if I could ask the grandchildren to step up and each take a night to be a co-host on Zoom. Asher's got tonight, and how many nights do you want to do it, Ash?
I got no problem being a part
Okay.
of this for, doing the hosting part. I guess we'll kind of see this first few times, like if there's a lot of people I don't know who they are that need to be in here. But for the most part, I think I know everyone.
Okay. So, but are you committing then from now until, but Asher stepped up to do a video. So that's why I thought we should.
Between Asher and I, one of the two of us will run the Zoom or commit to that.
Okay.
And if you need an alternate, I can be an alternate.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. So we got that set up through Wednesday, I guess. Okay. Just checking in to see how you guys are doing. We are good. There's plenty of people going to be here tonight. My friends, Juliet Spitzer and Phil Wax, who AJ and Pace both know, are leading services tonight. And AJ is going to speak a little bit. Correct, AJ? Look at that. Uh-oh, they're muted. Look at that family Robinson all in one frame.
We're having some technical difficulties here.
Uh-oh. Okay. And Uncle Jarvin is going to speak tomorrow night. And Pace is going to speak on Monday night. Correct? And if any of you guys, the way we've set up the service.
When are you going to speak?
That's so. Here's let me just explain it first. The service is going to be at 8 for about a half hour, and there's going to be and before Kaddish, we want a different person to speak from the family, and then we'll say Kaddish, and then we'll open the Zoom room to anybody else who wants to share memories. So if any of you all want to speak before Kaddish on any of the nights, we'll assign you a night, and because I feel like I spoke enough at the funeral. Anybody? E?
Well, I got solicited by Juliet to at least offer a kavanah before Kaddish, and apparently there are 2 Kaddishes tonight.
Okay, but how about any of you? Eli, Ash?
So I did write something to say. AJ, I spoke with Uncle Age today. If time not necessarily permits, because I know how your services permission is not necessarily, but if we believe that it is appropriate given the time constraints this evening, I will speak. If not, I will speak on another to be determined evening.
Okay, all right. Anybody else with remarks or stories or something that they want to share? Karen? You? Nicole? Michaela? Ethan?
Randy, you've asked enough times. Everybody, if they want to say something, they'll say something. No need to beg everybody.
I'm not begging. I'm just giving a.
Okay, let's move on.
Right of first refusal. Okay, move on. Ethan, take us into Havdalah if you want, or we'll just open the Zoom room and talk to everybody and tell Juliet we'll start at Havdalah.
All right, I got one religious question before we start. Since everybody joins a Zoom, what prayer book are we using? Are they going to share on the screen? How does that work?
We'll find out. I said, look, you guys have to lead it. Let us know. We'll find out. They'll probably share a screen. I mean, I don't know. I just left it up to them. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Well, Ethan, it's up to you. Do we let everybody in, say hello, and you do Havdalah later? You ready for that?
Now let's just do. I think you want to do it now. You want to wait for the.
I don't care.
Do it now.
Vuz vuz Havdalah, vuz vuz.
Do Havdalah now.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Amam yivei kodesh lechol ve'yoruch Hashem
Israel Amin Ben Yom Hashvi L'Sheshet Yamei Amaseh Baruch Atah Adonai Hamavdil Ben Kodesh Lecho.
So I want to make a comment to the three primary mourners. In our house, when we make Havdalah, we say, what's the distinction between? So this is the first week of your lives that you go forth as parentless children. And it'll take a while to really figure out what that means for each of you. You know, there's some difficulty in that, but there's also some empowerment where you realize, like, okay, mom's gone, dad's gone, and now I just have to go forward and figure out what you're going to do with your lives. So I bless you that the journey have deep learning and have very few bumps in the road, because having gone through that 9 years ago, it was a very growthful and rich process, and it should be that way for you too.
Yeah, I realize we're making Havdalah on the year that we had Mommy Nat and the year that we don't have Mommy Nat, and 2020 and 2021. So it's a big Havdalah, and make a big distinction, and just that this week should be gentle and folding for everybody, and should you be comforted by all the people that are here to support us and love us. Hallelujah. You want to just say hello so we can hear your voice?
Hello, hello.
There you are, Goosey. Are you by yourself?
I'm at Emery's apartment, but I am by myself right now.
Tell Emery to poker face into the Zoom screen. Say hello.
Okay.
We can let like Richard in. You should start doing that.
Yeah. I think so.
There's one on here, NM37909 at AOL.
Ash,
They're bomber.
welcome to the most thankless job in the world, homie.
The Knoxville people are going to be connecting in immediately.
Okay, good.
Hi.
Joyce.
Hello.
Hi, Emery.
Hi, Emery. So Asher, I'm going to send him a private chat to that MM37909.
You're meeting Hallel's cousins and her aunts and uncles, and then a lot more of the extended family. So welcome.
Thank you.
I have to mute everyone.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the Robinson-Raphael Zoom room. We are so glad you are here. And we're going to start at about 8 o'clock, but if you want to say something, you should raise your hand and we'll unmute you and you can say hello at the moment if you want. And Emery, we wanted to say hello to you. Say hello, Emery. It's Hallel's buddy there.
Hi.
Thank you for being there with her.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So Joyce, I see you're in the room. So why don't you, I'm going to ask you to unmute and say hello. You have to unmute. Richard, we see you somewhere. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Say hello.
Can you hear me?
No, we didn't hear that.
Raizel, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, well, I just want to express my sympathy to everyone. What a grand person. I just think somehow since Mitchell died, Natalie just was just such a grand lady in Knoxville for the Jewish community, and we're just gonna miss knowing that she's, even though we never see her anymore, we're living in California. We're gonna miss knowing that she's in this world. So our best to you.
Aunt Joyce, is it true that California is better than Tennessee? I've heard mixed opinions throughout the years.
You're sweet to ask. We like it here. Nothing's gonna be better than home, but we like it a lot. We do. Thanks for asking. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in New York City, which is worse than both California and Tennessee. So, you know, I'm jealous.
Well, what a good looking place you're in. I like it.
Thank you. I rented it myself.
Did you? I like it. Gosh, is it a loft?
That's actually a little storage area. But yes, I actually live in a loft, and very, very similar to our relatives of yore coming through New York. The rent's a little bit higher probably when they were here, but it's not that dissimilar of a lifestyle. It's pretty cramped.
Well, my brother Spud loved New York. Gosh, he loved it. So I know you guys do too. It's great for you to say hello. Thank you.
I just want to say hi to Mary Linda, and say when I walked away from the grave yesterday, we could see the stone with Schwarzbart on it. So I said hello to Arnold, and it's good to know that Natalie and Mitchell have good company.
We have a great group up there on the hill with a good view, and Ernie Gross helped me design the stone and the quote. Well, you know what the quote is from Bezalel. As I was describing Natalie to my friends sharing her passing, I kept adding adjectives. I mean, this is a woman who was one of a role model for being a lady and gracious and welcoming, and I just kept adding all these positive adjective. But Razel had asked for something that most people didn't know about her. And so when she would buy something from Arnold for a gift, I would watch her handwrite out on a sheet of paper the note that she was then going to write into her card to go. I admired the discipline that it took to think so thoroughly about what she was going to write and practice before she actually included it in the card to go with the gift. She was just, I guess, one of my role models. I don't know, just an awesome lady, and with a rich legacy of wonderful children and grandchildren. She would be proud of each of you.
Thank you. I just want to ask, this is just a tech issue, because there are a lot of people that are showing up that we don't know who they are. Ethan, can you see them? Yigdal, can you see them? Because Laura's managing some of them, but there's one with like iPhone, we don't know who it is. And I don't know how to manage all these people. Laura,
I'm on a cell phone, so I'm not much help.
You're not much help. Okay. Ash, what do you want to do about this?
You can message the people in the waiting room, right?
We message.
Yeah.
You can remove people. So if somebody comes in and you're getting Zoom bombed, we're one click away from them not being in the Zoom anymore.
Okay. So you want to just let them all in and take care of
the appropriate thing. I will say, Uncle Sim, you did mention the cemetery. When the rabbi called me the morning that Mommy Nat passed away, he was asking me, did a very good job asking me a series of questions about Mommy Nat. But one of them an idea that I really couldn't get out of my head was that woman loved the cemetery. And it's a very, it's such a beloved quality in someone to say that they love a cemetery. But as a grandson, I mean, she probably took me to the cemetery 10 to 15 times in my life. And just on the surface, like if you're at a cocktail party, you probably shouldn't be telling everybody that your grandmother loves taking you to the cemetery. It's kind of a weird, fun fact, but man, she loved that place. And so I was unfortunately unable to be there yesterday, but there was something about just seeing like that woman is home. Like she, if they are having a cocktail party that we're not invited to at that cemetery, she is the hostess. Like she is well connected in that crew, man.
Well, in her later years, she did say, I know more people here than back in town.
And the reality is she actually knew she actually knew more people in that cemetery since she was 10 years old. She just felt embarrassed saying it, I think, is the reality.
Right. Well, you're about 4 generations in your family there.
Yesterday, I walked around after we tucked her in and told all her relatives there that she was there and they should welcome her in. And I think they listened to me. You never know these things, but I don't know why they wouldn't. So I see all kind of people that we know. Uncle Jarvin, can you turn on your screen? Say hello. Michael's here. Sandy, can you turn on your screen and say hello? Richard, you want to say hello? Raise your hand if you do.
Hello.
Michael said hello. Anybody else want to say something with the story or a hello till we get started?
Yes, I'd raise my hand.
Yeah.
Just to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Joyce had said. I think, those of us who knew Mommy, Nat, and Zadie as a power couple, Zadie was typically like the masthead. He was out in front of the ship. He was the big personality, and Mommy Nat was, often quiet and kind of running the show in the background. But I think when Zadie passed, there was almost like, like Mommy Nat was really able to really, fill the room, be herself and no longer be not even second fiddle, but now she was, queen on display. And I think that was really, it was really something that I enjoyed to see, having that experience of, them as a tandem, but then really, getting to know her on her own. And I think there is a strong not coincidence. There's a strong significance to her passing on the 31st, and us not being able to be together in the way that we would want to right now, because she always loved a party, not necessarily to party, but a party. She loved to host. She loved to be around people, and she loved, just socializing. So now anytime that any of us are anywhere doing anything like that on the 31st of December, bringing in a new year, we're able to honor her and celebrate her memory in that way as well. So that was something that I just kind of had a momentary epiphany of in the car today and felt like it was important to share.
Thank you. Anybody else with a story or an image or piece of my mother's legacy life they want to share? No, Richard Gluck, step forward. Where are you? He's there somewhere.
Hineni.
Hineni. Tell us a story, Richard.
That story, well, I told you the other night, she was such a significant part of my life. You guys, I think I spent the night at your house 3 or 4 nights a week, my entire childhood. And I had this impression in that I was, she was so refined to me when I was a little kid. I was almost kind of scared of her, but the older I got, the more I appreciated her, kind of like Yigdal said, her zest for life was incredible. She was an incredible, adventurer. A couple of great stories. One, her and my mom, she went to Wisconsin, and my youngest son, Benjamin, also went to Wisconsin. So one year, Faye and Nat traipsed off to, it's just not your sightseeing capital of the world, but traipsed off to Wisconsin Benjamin's freshman year and spent a whole weekend with Benjamin, and he'll be on, I think, on the Robinson night, so he can tell some great stories. But the older I got, especially after I got married, what I remember the most was she loved a good time, and she loved a highball, and she loved to be sitting at the bar in the middle of the crowd with everybody but at the same time, not taking any of the limelight from anybody else. She always had this kind of light on her, no matter what. 'Cause she was so, she was a beautiful woman, but she was one of those people that, everybody has in their life where people just want to be around her. And there's really not a great explanation as to why, but Nat always struck me as, that kind of person. And anyway, that's just kind of a couple of memories I had about her. But always a good time with that Nat. She was a queen. She will be missed. I just spent a lot of my lifetime with her. Thank God, she helped raise me.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other family members that want to share a story? Michael and Sharon, you're here. Can you give us a glimpse, an impression of something? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, we got to save ours for tomorrow night. We've got tomorrow night assignment.
We can save you. We can save you. Save you for tomorrow night then. Okay. Dean, I see that Juliet and Phil are here, so we have 1 minute till we actually start Mariv. Juliet, can you say hello, and then we can find you and put you on the screen?
Yes, we are. Phil and I are touched and honored and delighted to lead this first Shiva Mariv. And I am hoping that people have Sidurim, have prayer books.
No, don't.
No.
Give that up.
Give that up. Okay.
We can screen share though.
What do you need? I don't have that set up.
Okay. So, Sim?
I can screen share it if you want.
Thank you, Jeff Saltar, one of my rabbinic colleagues. Okay, good. Appreciate that. Jeff, I guess you didn't know you'd be working here tonight.
It's good to have rabbi friends.
It's very good to have rabbi friends. All right, so Asher, we need to let Jeff have, can everybody screen share? Or do you need to let him have co-host? We'll figure that out. I'm welcoming everybody who's joining us. I'm seeing a lot of names of people I love.
Hello.
Joining in here. You can, I tell you what, I invite everybody who's in the Zoom room to say your name, put it in the chat, say where you're coming in from. Anything else you want to, if you have a story that you don't want to speak, but you want to tell, to write that in the chat as well. And then we'll know who's in the room, and we'll have a record of who's here.
And Raise, I just want to interrupt and let people know that there will be time
to share later.
To share later as well.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Well, once we work out the technical issues of this, of the Sidur, which I think we're working on, then we can start the service whenever you're ready.
There's Joyce.
Let me just introduce Juliet and Phil. They are friends of mine from Philadelphia. Juliet's been one of my singing partners. Phil has been her partner and one of the driest wits I know. And he's met all my family at all the bar mitzvahs, the bat mitzvahs, so you guys have a special place. Okay, look at that. So you're going to have to adapt to this Sidur, Juliet.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's not, but it's okay.
The whole group.
It's fine.
Wait a minute, it's not working.
All right, Marilyn, we're going to
It is
leave.
working, but
What did he say?
no, it's working. Okay. So we are going to assume that people have, those whose practice it is to make Havdalah, to mark the difference between Shabbat and coming into the rest of the week. We are going to imagine that if you have not done that, we'll take just this moment and say goodbye to Shabbat informally without the Havdalah service, and know that we're going into a new way of being. Shabbat gives us this freedom to have time out of time, and now really Shiva begins. And we are making the distinction between that which is holy and non-work focused during Shabbat to this time now, which is holy in its own way, but brings us back to the regular accounting of time, except for the mourners, for whom time really does sort of have a different quality than the time that others experience. So we acknowledge that difference, not only between Shabbat and the rest of the week, but between time when we are in mourning and time when we are not. So we'll begin. Race, is it okay to start?
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, why don't you start? Yeah, go ahead. If you are able and feel like rising, we are going to get the call to prayer and bring everyone's focus and love and attention to this circle of love. Go ahead.
V'hurachum yechaperabam v'lo yashki, v'yorpala shiva po v'lo yerko chamato, Adonai Hoshia melech yaneinu v'yom koreinu, Baruch hu et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Lilam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vaed.
And you can feel free to sit and sing along if you are familiar with this. We are going into the evenings. One of Raisel's all-time top 10. And we're not going to do all 45 verses. So we'll just do the just a couple.
I can find the words to that, Juliet, if you give me a minute.
Okay, then we will do the 45.
But that's all right. You can start it till I find it.
Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives, Mariv, Aravim, Amen. Sacred words, even the evenings, wisdom open gates locked around our hearts. Asher bidbaro mariv aravim, v'chochma poteach sharim. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Mariv aravim, amen. Spirit of the night, we bless your name. Sacred words, that understanding alters with the times, changing seasons, cycles divine. Ubikvuna mishaneh etim, umachalif et hazmanim. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Mariv, Aravim, amen. Paint diamonds on the canvas called sky. Soothe our souls with a lilting lullaby. Umisader et hakochavim. B'mishmrotehem b'rakia kirtsono. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Mariv, Aravim. Amen. Rolling, rolling into the night, rolling, rolling away the light. Golel or mipnei choshech, golel choshech mipnei or. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Mariv, Aravim, Amen. Spirit of the night, we bless your name. Eternal light, eternal flame. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu, Leolam Vaed. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Mariv, Aravim, Amen. Okay, we are back with
El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. Avadu Lambi.
I'm going to read a piece. Yeah. We are loved by an unending love. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we're too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us even when we're too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we're too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Blessed are you, beloved one, who loves your people, Israel.
V'yavarcha tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlechtecha v'derech, u'shafecha u'v'kamecha, u'kshartam liot ayadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha.
Adonai Eloheichem Emed Emed V'Menachol Zov V'Kayam Aleinu Ki Hu Adonai Eloheinu Min Zulato. U'malchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe Miriam and Bnei Yisrael achanu shira B'simcha rabba v'yamru kulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Norati lo t'osef eleh Malchutcha ra'u v'necha bokei yam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar kifada Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
One of Trump's attorneys says that Hunch is part of the treason.
Ashkivenu ya
Eloheinu,
Adonai leshalom Behamidenu Malkeinu lechaim Ufros aleinu Sukat shlomecha V'takneinu b'etzah tova milfanecha v'hoshienu leman shemecha. Uv'tzel kenafecha tasdirenu ki el shomrenu umatzilenu ata. Uv'tzel kenafecha tasdirenu ki el melech chanun v'rachum ata. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechayim uleshalom me'ata v'yad olam.
Baruch atah Adonai shomer mo Yisrael laoad. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen v'amen.
When fears multiply and danger threatens, when sickness comes, when death confronts us, it is God's blessing of shalom that sustains us and upholds us, lightening our burden, dispelling our worry, restoring our strength, renewing our hope, reviving us. Okay.
Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam voed, ki hamalchut shelcha hi, ulamea timloch bechavod, ki ein lanu melech ela ata, baruch ata Adonai, hamelech b'kvodo, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam voed, v'yahal kol mahasahav, yikarav yikarash me rabbah, B'yamad yirach yirutei v'yamlich machutei b'chayechonu v'yamechonu v'chayedu kol beit Yisrael v'agalav yizman kariv v'imeruhu amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'me'amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitrama v'yinatzei v'yidadar v'yidalev v'yidalal shmei d'kudusha b'rechuhu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram b'yamah v'yimeru amen.
We're at the point in the service where we rise if we are able and take these moments for a silent Amidah prayer. And this is also time for personal reflections or to just feel these moments in silence. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom. Okay. Why don't you do yeah. Go ahead. It's up.
Yikarav yikarash merabah. Yamad yirakirte v'yamlich machute b'chayechonu v'yamechonu chayircho beYisrael. V'agalav yizman kari v'yimeru amen. Yehesh merabah mevarach le'olam ame'amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yiparik ramam yinaseh. Yidadar v'yidalev yidalash medekudusha brechuhu. Le'elam min kol brechata v'shirata tushbechata v'nekamata daviman v'yamav amen. Tikabat sladon avon tachol Yisrael kadam v'loham divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol Yoshvei v'tevel v'yimru amen.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latei gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Litakein olam b'malchut Shaddai. Litakein olam b'malchut Shaddai. B'malkein olam b'malchut Shaddai. Litakein olam b'malchut Shaddai. Hakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Before we go into the Kaddish, I want to again say hello, and Razel is inviting folks to, what is Razel saying?
If they haven't said hello and let us know where they are, I think I know most of the people here, but
and then I just to know what we're doing next, we'll check in and say hello to one another, and then we'd like to hear from AJ and hear his reflections at this time. And then we'll do a Kaddish. And then we will open it up for others to speak and follow it with a second Kaddish. So why don't we just say hello? Again, this is Phil Wax and Juliet Spitzer, and we're here in Philadelphia, longtime friends of the Raphael family and Robinson family. Yeah, others?
Mark and Ellen Biller, we're in Queens. We've known Rachel and Simcha since the Toronto in
Long time ago.
long time, late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
I can call on you if you like, or
And
I'll just ask you guys to speak up. Yeah, go ahead.
And Norman Newberg, friends from Philadelphia and relatives from long way back with Mitchell's cousin. Norman is Mitchell's cousins.
Glad you're here.
Carol and Rich Kaplan from Tucson had the pleasure of having the longest Passover Seder in our lives at Mitch and Nat's house way back.
Lanny Millen from Charlotte, North Carolina, remembering and thinking about Natalie and also the family during this time.
Ellen Etche in Philadelphia, sending lots of love.
Noga from Philadelphia, sending lots of love.
Hi, it's Bruce and Judy from Providence, Rhode Island. Friends of Rachel.
I think everybody else is kind of saying hello in the chat, which is also great. So I want to invite we'll have chance after Kaddish to also, I just have to say one thing. I talked about my mother at the funeral as she had a appreciation of the absurd, okay, of life. And when I walked over here to the Shiva, I'm sitting on my brother's porch outside, and he's on a Zoom room inside, and Simpla's on a Zoom room in the other house. And I'm sitting under the heaters, and that is not weird enough. But during services, there were fireworks going off across the lake. And so my mother upped it a notch and said, at first I thought it was people just shooting guns. I am in Tennessee, and she was getting a 21 gun salute. But then the fireworks started happening, so I figured she was just throwing more of a party than so that's the background of what I'm sitting in, the absurd of this week. So, AJ, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm AJ Robinson, Natalie's oldest son. I'm here with my kids, my wife, Nicole. Can you see Nicole? And this is Ethan, Michaela, and Nathaniel. And first of all, I want to just thank everyone for being here tonight and sharing your thoughts and comfort with all of us. My mother, I know, would really be very appreciative of everyone being here. I thought I'd just briefly, since this is the first night of maybe a marathon of Shivas here for the next few nights.
AJ, one thing, can you put yourself on speaker view, or everybody put Ethan Robinson on speaker view, and then you can see who's talking.
You can also spotlight any particular speaker. The host can spotlight.
Well, with that technology in mind, I'm going to continue. Since many of you had different knowledge of my mother, many of you in Knoxville knew her better than most. I'm just going to as a way of introduction, read what will become the official obituary, which I believe will be in the Knoxville paper tomorrow. We plan to put it in some of the Atlanta papers as well. Primarily written by my sister-in-law and brother who are here tonight, but edited by a group of at least 50 of us in the last 12 hours. I think it's very short, but I think it kind of gives you a flavor of Natalie, and also just kind of sets the tone for the rest of our evening. I'm also going to call on my nephew, Eli, I think before Kaddish, because I think he has also a personal tribute he'd like to make as well. So Natalie Levison Robinson was born April 21st, 1926 in Bristol, Virginia, not Bristol, Tennessee. Peacefully passed away on December 31st, 2020 here in Atlanta, the early morning of New Year's Eve. She lived her adult life in Knoxville and was a lifetime member of Heskamuna congregation, which I know many of you are. She was a charming Southern Jewish lady with a compassion for everyone. She had an optimistic attitude, a beautiful spirit, which led her to be a positive influence on those around her. She was interesting and interested. Most of all, she was full of grace and humbleness. Natalie grew up in Atlanta, spent time in Wisconsin and New York, but migrated to Knoxville where her parents owned a ladies' dress shop called the Sterling House. She developed a lasting passion for fashion and was always dressed to the nines. She married my dad, Mitchell, on April 15th, 1951. Mitchell was the owner of Modern Supply Company, and Natalie embraced the spousal support role for the family business. She was an unequaled hostess, often welcoming new community members, students, and other visitors to her home. She chaired the Synagogue Sisterhood Bazaar for many years. She also volunteered for the Bijou Theater Board, delivered mobile meals, which I participated in, supported the Hillel effort at the University of Tennessee campus, was a life member of Hadassah, and participated in the Knoxville Jewish Alliance Archives Committee. She loved to travel, and her life with Mitchell took her around the world, including many Modern Supply customer trips to exotic places. She loved to read and was a longtime member of a book club. She, of course, was preceded in death by her parents, Hyman and Ella Levison, our grandparents, husband Mitchell, and brother F. Gilbert Levison. She is survived by S. Jarvin Levison, who is on the Zoom tonight, her daughter-in-law and son-in-law, Rabbi Robinson-Raphael and Simcha, who of Philadelphia, myself, Nicole, and Pace and Karen of Knoxville, and the grandchildren, Eli and Asher, who are our hosts tonight, Yigdal and Hallel in Philadelphia, and of course, Michaela, Ethan, and Nathaniel here in Atlanta, and also very close to her sister-in-law, Faye Gluck of Atlanta, and a host of many of you, family and friends. So one historic, as I turn it over to Eli, I just want to note one historical fact. Many of you may not know that she shared the same birthday with Queen Elizabeth, April 21st, 1926. And with that, I'll turn it over to Eli.
Good evening, everybody. When my mother called me a couple nights ago, or a couple mornings ago, to tell me that Mommy Nat had passed away, Sarah, my girlfriend, as my witness, the first thing I did was I sat down at my computer and I started to write. I have 4 pages written here, and in some ways, some of you might be bored by 4 pages. I think distilling my memoirs of her down to 4 is pretty impressive. I'm going to try to get through it. I was, as you'll see, unable to be at the funeral, so here we go. A brief note before I begin. a preamble, if you would. When I was a sophomore in college, my mother's father, Pop, passed away. I was 17 years old. It was March 2004, the middle of high school basketball season, and I decided that I was not going to go to his funeral in Virginia. The ex post facto gravity of that decision weighed on me so heavily that my regret became the topic of my college application essay to Penn and other schools. I went and found the essay earlier this week, and I wanted to share the opening and closing paragraphs with you guys tonight. Here we go. In one's life, there are points when a decision presents itself that has everything and nothing riding on it at the same time. While teenagers rarely have to make life-changing, earth-shattering decisions, some choices are more important than others. I, as well as I hope other 17-year-olds, have few regrets in my relatively minute time on Earth. However, there are a few decisions that, if given the chance, I would reconsider. My judgment not to attend my grandfather's funeral has haunted me since the day I made the resolution to stay in Knoxville rather than make the trip to Williamsburg. It was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. In hindsight, which popular opinion seems to believe is 2020, I would have not only gone to his funeral, but also shown more overall respect for my grandfather. Now, for the rest of my life, I have to live with the burden that I did not go. I will never make this mistake again. And I hope that my grandchildren will be civilized enough to come to my funeral, or at least treat my passing with respect. Earlier this year, I attended the unveiling of his tombstone. There, the memory engraved in my mind was the only thing I could think about. It was heavier than the granite that adorned his final resting place. It was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I share this with you because fate this week dealt me a very cruel hand. How ironic that I even included the term 2020 in my essay. After 16 years of intense regret, I missed another grandparent's funeral. It hurt a lot. I saw my grandmother lowered into the earth on Facebook Live. So for me, this Zoom Shiva means a lot. A lot more than I ever thought it would. So thank you so much to everybody who's here for making this a meaningful night for me and my family. It matters a lot more to me, and I think you understand that now, than I could have ever imagined. And with that overly verbose preamble, allow me to share some thoughts about Mommy Nat. I feel that when some people pass, their funerals are where you learn a lot of the different versions of someone, whether it be from the perspective of a child, a friend, or a member of the clergy. It always amazes me the true spectrum of ways that people can be perceived by others. By way of example, it has been explained to me that Zadie, Mommy Nat's late husband, was quite the, shall we say, intense businessman. Yet if you asked any of his grandchildren about his role in society, we would tell you the story of a lovable, caring man who couldn't hurt a fly. Funny how things like this go. Mommy Nat is different. Mommy Nat stood for a number of ideals in the world that she represented and defended to all those she knew in all circumstances. Effervescence, equality, elegance. I'm sure if we could all be together today, we would find that our stories all ring similar to each other when Mommy Nat was involved. She earned respect, but was certain to be respectful of others when they earned it too. She believed in the power of people, and she advocated for people to be treated with regard, no matter who they were in society. And she had a keen sense of order. Slightly ironic and appropriate given her longtime role as the overseer of the synagogue bazaar. I'm going to gallery view because I want to see all y'all's faces. Enough with the platitudes, as science seems to believe that what resonates with people aren't ideas, but rather stories. So I figured I'd share 3 of them with you tonight. Number 1, my grandmother used to scratch my back. My earliest definitive memory of Mommy Nat and me is when I used to sleep over at the lake house. Somehow, she would have the energy and gumption to take care of her grandchildren contemporaneous to managing Zadie's life confined to a wheelchair. A true woman of valor. I don't remember vividly how we would spend those days, but I do remember that she used to tuck me in upstairs. And that was very important because Zadie couldn't get upstairs, so it was always just the 2 of us. And she would scratch my back with hands that I could never have the words to describe. So I figured I'd sing you one verse from a song that best describes how I feel. Grandma's hands used to hand me a piece of candy. Grandma's hands picked me up each time I fell. Grandma's hands, boy, they really came in handy, she'd say. Maddie, don't you whip that boy. What do you want to spank him for? He didn't drop no apple core, but I don't have grandma anymore. If I get to heaven, I'll look for grandma's hands. As a fun and perhaps interesting side note to her hands was the fact that the story we read together those evenings most often was The Emperor's New Clothes. I didn't learn about the concept of metaphor and allegory for many years after we would read that tale, but I'd like to believe that Mommy Nat was preparing me in her own way for dealing with vanity and leadership. As a side note to the side note, I once asked my grandmother if she had ever cast a vote for a Republican for President of the United States of America, and she answered, certainly. I voted for Tom Dewey in '48, but not once since then. I didn't know his nickname was Tom. Number 2, my grandmother cared. As I moved into adulthood, Mommy Nat made it very clear that she was not done having opinions about my life. Growing up, she was always slow to show what we would now call radical candor. But in my 20s, she got to be quite honest. I remember her calling me one time and telling me I needed to break out of my quote unquote cocoon, which was apparently what she termed the lifestyle of a 24-year-old New York City consultant living with 5 of his closest friends. But there's a single example of her intervention in my life that will truly never leave me. It was the summer of 2009. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia with Uncle Richard and Aunt Beth and working as a summer intern at Glass Ratner. I think I saw Ian log on. I had it going on. Uncle Richard and I had struck a sweetheart deal on rent where all I had to do was keep the fridge full of beer. That was easier said than done the month that Jacob and Elon were at home, but it worked. My dad had lent me his black Chrysler 300M for the summer, and I was riding high. One afternoon after work, seemingly out of the blue, I got a call from Mommy Nat. This was an incredibly odd occurrence, as almost without fail in the conversations that we had with each other, I would be the one calling her. She started the call in somewhat of a concerned tone. Eli, there's something I need to discuss with you, and I'm sorry in advance that it's a little bit awkward. I said, well, that's fine, Mommy Nat. What can I help you with? She responded, well, before you went down to Atlanta and you were up here in Knoxville, I noticed something that was quite upsetting, and frankly, I just have to say something. I, now basically scared for my life, answered, Mommy Nat, what is it? And in a tone that rings in my head and will ring in my head for the rest of my life, she over the phone says, you've got to stop scratching your balls so much. I knew at that moment, A, I clearly needed to stop scratching my balls so much. And B, that Mommy Nat and I had reached a rare platform that few grandmother-grandson combos ever will. I'm not sure I ever wanted to get to that platform, but there we were. And 11 years later, I have not forgotten that moment. The woman sure as hell knew how to get through to people. Number 3, my grandmother drank coffee. As I began the ancient yet relevant process of notifying those in my life who would want to know about Mommy Nat's passing, it seemed there was a single flavor of memory that kept coming up: coffee. If you do me the favor, and I don't know who of you are these type of people, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Kitchen table. Tiles schlepped from Portugal in the middle. Mommy Nat sitting in the southernmost chair closest to the kitchen. You almost certainly are sitting in the northernmost chair. The chairs themselves are thatched. They've got quite a bit of give. You know people have sat here before you. There's a toaster on your left, the lake on your right, and her grandchildren's wall art over Mommy Nat's right shoulder. Also on your right is a brown chair-like thing that no one has ever really been able to figure out why it's there. There's baskets hanging over her head. The table is chaotic. Without fail, today or maybe yesterday's newspaper is strewn about. You see that there's a few articles missing from the pages. Without doubt, sealed in an envelope bound for Philadelphia or Atlanta or New York. And there's mail. There's lots and lots of mail, so much mail. You've truly never seen a single person receive that amount of mail. And you'd imagine that if they were the person that was receiving that much mail, they would have a better filing system than throw it on the kitchen table. There's food, but not a feast. If it's the morning, it's probably bagels. Afternoon, salad with that signature vinaigrette dressing that if you ever had it, you can taste it in your mouth right now. If you're on your best behavior or one of her 7 favorite grandchildren, you probably get an offer for an ice cream sandwich. Hopefully she's got the good stuff in her freezer, not the sugar-free shit she's still in the habit of buying from when Zadie's diabetes was the determining factor in her groceries. And of course, there's coffee. You see, neither of my parents drink coffee. I don't think Uncle AJ and Aunt Nicole do, and I don't really think Tante Nate or Uncle Sim do either. And for those of you who are still in this dreamscape with me, you have to understand that this is a truly stunning fact. A woman so dedicated to her brew spawned 3 kids who don't drink it. She's always wanted to share coffee with her family. So there you are, sitting in that northernmost chair, taking her up on the offer. The coffee is always purchased whole bean from the grocery store, probably fresh market. She's got a little grinder that she's happy to show you how to operate. You push the top, and then we brew. It's time to drink it immediately because coffee is only served hot, very, very hot. You have to wonder to yourself how many unique microwaves in the greater Knoxville area have heated up a cup of coffee for Mommy Nat. I would believe it's over 50% if you told me. A cup is poured for you and one for her. There's skim milk if you want it, and there's a little sugar box filled with loose leaf sweet and low for you to take the tiniest spoon you've ever seen and dish it into your cup. It's truly the smallest spoon you've ever seen. If you've touched this spoon, which many of you have, you know what it feels like by heart. You once again wonder how many people still use these little sugar containers in their home. She must be the only one. Finally, after all this, it's time to chat. She starts that conversation in that warm, southern, delicate voice that we can all hear in our head right now. Maybe it's, I read in the paper about the new restaurant or new park or new something else. Or maybe it's, has there been any new developments on that book you're reading or the girl you're seeing or that trip you're going to take? Or quite simply, what's new, E? You see, with her, it's always something new. The woman loves the news and loved novelty in general. She knew that sitting still was the first step in moving backwards. So off you were to the various going-ons of the day, your life, and the world. The conversation wanders, but with purpose, a well-planned improvisation. As you reach flow, you lose track of time. By the time it's all over, you've probably topped off your coffee once or twice. Mommy Nat only had 1 cup. You get up from that chair with a little bit of give, and off you go to take on the rest of the world. She stays there reading the paper, ready for the next person to sit down. When I look in the mirror, I see a lot of Mommy Nat, and I'm thankful for that. She showed me that there's a way to have a soft touch and still achieve your goals. She taught me about how venue and forum can unlock honesty and warmth. And she demonstrated to me that continually refining one's social skills can pay compounding dividends in the community that you keep. But one thing she certainly did not teach me was how to say goodbye. To this day, I am absolutely terrible at goodbyes. I hate them. They're awkward, forced, and oftentimes they involve making physical contact with other people. What a 2019 idea. And believe it or not, it was something she was bad at too. You see, when Mommy Nat and I would talk, we wouldn't ever really stop. We would just wander aimlessly around in the world of possible topics and just keep going. In some ways, I view our 33 years together as just one long conversation. One about emperors, politics, scratching, and coffee. One that neither one of us ever wanted to end. Thank you.
What a truly beautiful tribute to your grandmother, Eli. It's in Psalm 23. There, it ends by saying, "Surely good and loving kindness will chase after me all the days of my life, and I will come to dwell inside the house of the Eternal for the length of the days." It's clear that your grandmom, Razel, and AJ and Pace, your mom, and all the other grandchildren was an extraordinary person. And I feel like we all got a gift in knowing her that much more by your words. So thank you. I think we should, let's rise now for the Kaddish. And AJ, did you want to add anything else? AJ?
Not after that. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Eli, when you're old enough, buddy, I'll tell you what Zadie Minch told me one day. It cannot be repeated on the screen here tonight.
Okay. The Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'imru
Amen.
Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'tadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudasha brichu. Olam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'yama v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Seh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sharei avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May all the mourners here be comforted with the rest of mourners everywhere in Zion, in Jerusalem, and throughout the world and throughout time. And we say amen. Raise.
Yeah, I'm here. So I'm going to just see if there's any family members who would like to say something first that are in the room tonight. You can they unmute themselves, Ash, or we have to ask them to unmute? And if not, we'll just do open mic here and see if anybody has a story. You know, one of the things we're looking for, actually, for those of you who knew my mother, is you know, the last few years with the hearing loss and some dementia, and you know, we want to hear some stories to help us remember who she was through her whole life, not just these last few years that are the most present. So those of you who are on here who knew her the longest, if you have a good story for us, please share it, or you know, helping us put the pieces of her life together. We have open Zoom room at the moment. Just if you know how to put your hand up, let's see, it's one of the settings on here, or if not, just raise your hand and unmute yourself. And so I see Barbara and Bernie are, let's see, let's unmute you. Nope. No, that's Barbara and Bernie. I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Try it there.
There you go.
When did Natalie start driving that fancy car?
Which one? The Cadillac? The
red one behind her.
Oh, the red one behind me. That's a rental. When I would go to Florida with her, let me move out of the way. No, I gotta go this way. I would rent a car and drive her around in a convertible. And, you know, everybody'd say, don't get a low car. She can't get in, you know, she can't get in the car. And I got that convertible and she would get in and out. It was hard for her at the beginning, but we just considered it sort of like PT, if she would just get used to it. And she did, actually. Yeah, that's her in the background for those of you who are looking at my Zoom room. So Bernie, do you have a story?
I have many of them, but we've heard good ones tonight. Let's stop right there.
I'm going to make one comment to Eli. As long as I knew Natalie, and I knew her a long time and very well, I don't believe she said that to you. I would almost swear.
Oh, I do.
It struck me as so unlike her that I resolved at that moment that there would only be one occasion that I could bring up that story, and that is tonight.
Probably talked to Natalie many more times than you did. I never heard her say anything like that.
You could, and Barbara, you can imagine. I thought my life was flashing. She never called me and never had anything to do. It was that woman knew how to have an intervention.
Okay, I'll have stories later, but I had to refute that.
You know, my mother looked good to the world, fashionable, lipstick, hair done, nails done. But if you got her at the right moment, she could tell you the truth. Anybody else want to say anything either in response to that or to... I see a lot of my beloveds here from Philadelphia and from all over the place who didn't really know her. Some of you met her at different times. So I just want to thank you for being here, even if you didn't know her.
Razel.
Yes.
Laney, hey.
Laney. This is my cousin Laney Millen, cousin to my mother. Are you in Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The couple of things about your mom. First of all, yeah, you talked about dressed to the nines and lipstick and all that. Your mother had such amazing posture and such a presence about her. I always thought, looked at her and thought how elegant she was. And you know, and that came with the Levison. You know, the Levisons. Like, you know, I look at you know, look at your grandmother, at Ella, you know, and your Aunt Sylvia Levison. All such people with such grace and such. But also, she had an incredible sense of humor. And my parents adored her, just absolutely adored her. That would be, for those of you who may or may not know, my parents were Lewis and Vera Millen. And yeah, I just remember, I remember staying at your house so many times growing up and how welcome your mother made me feel. Like I was like one of the kids, one of her kids. And it just, she was something else. She really was.
Thank you.
And I saw when at the funeral yesterday, I never really got how much of what of her I now see in you. Your voice inflection, your posturing, you really got it honest, you know. And I remember her being a real, you know, like you and your brothers coming and being at the house. Everybody had their place to do stuff. You know, she was always very organized and very. And I remember how lovely it was when she and your father hosted my sister Joan and her husband to be Howie, their engagement party at the house, and that was just such a lovely time. So I have a lot of memories.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those. Anybody else with this story? My mother, when she turned, I think around 80, we had always been doing genealogy, but I think from 80 to 90, she organized 2 family reunions, one with the Robinsons. I saw Sandy and Alfred and Joyce and here, you know, with the Robinson family, and she organized that one year, and she organized the Millens one year. Big family reunions. So that was part of who she was too, is bringing all the families together. Anybody else with a story?
Life.
Yeah. Is that Jolie?
Yeah, baby.
Can we see you? Can you
Let
turn
me
your?
see if I can. Hold on a minute. Right now I'm scratching my balls, so hold on till I finish. There.
This is my cousin Joel from from Nashville.
So I'll have to tell you, well, a couple of, I'm going to go way on back when we were growing up. And I will have to say, for those of you that know Razel now, that's not the Razel we knew growing up. And I will have to say that, yes, Nat was a sweet, kind woman, but Randy did just about everything she could to finish her off. And so Nat really cussed like a sailor when she was talking about Randy when we were growing up. So
what do you mean?
I am glad to see that you finally matured into a beautiful young woman. But what I really want to talk about is, so my mother is Faye Gluck, and she was the sister of Mitchell, who was married to Natalie. And the relationship between the two of them was really closer than two sisters. And they had such a special relationship. And, when we were growing up, they just could finish each other's sentences. We would have Shabbat at Natalie's house one weekend, at our house the next weekend, and on the high holidays, it would be at our house one time and at Natalie's house the next time. And, growing up, I don't ever remember a cross word between the two of them ever. And, they just enriched each other's lives. And I think the other thing they did was allowed my brother and sister and I and AJ Pace and Randy to really see how special family was and what relationships really meant. And the other thing that, that was amazing about Natalie and also Faye is they really taught us kids how to have a relationship with the generation above them. And I think of Mommy Ella, and I think of Bubba Sylvia, and I think of my grandmother. And, unfortunately, we really didn't know or didn't know very well our grandfathers. And, I think that the relationship that all six of us had with our grandmothers was really brought upon us by the way that Natalie and Faye treated their mothers. And, I think to this day, I think of the relationship that we all had with our grandmothers and how our mothers had such a big part in our lives. And I think mostly it was thanks to them. And then just a couple of lighthearted things. One was Nat was very finicky about food. And by that, I mean, she didn't like having extra people over for dinner or lunch if you didn't make a reservation. So a lot of times we would be over there, messing around with AJ or Pace, and we would want to stay for dinner or lunch. But if it hadn't been cleared with Nat earlier in the day, it was a big no. And so it was really funny because she was as gracious as she could be, as long as you were, she knew what was coming ahead of time. And then the last thing was, I remember on Shabbat when one of the ladies that worked for Natalie, Jessie, lived over a little bit of ways in Lonsdale. I know they made a reference to that yesterday. And there would always be a big to do about who had to take Jessie home. And, you know, typically it was one of us kids that had to take Jesse home. And Natalie would just sort of, you know, when they finished the dishes and everything, Natalie would just sort of shoo us out of there and tell us to take Jessie home, get her on back to Lonsdale. So, you know, she was quite a woman, and really for me, with Reuben not being married and with my father's brother we weren't close to, Natalie was really the only aunt that I had. And we had a special relationship. And as you were talking, I remember sitting at that table many times talking to Natalie about very in-depth subjects. And, you know, she was very interested in people. And I felt like, you know, every time I did get to see her, that it wasn't just chit chat, that it was really meaningful conversation that she really cared about. And so, you know, and I also agree with you that I'm not sure any of us learn to say goodbye, and that's a hard thing. And I do remember every time we left Nat, that she would kind of just stay inside and give you a little wave or a little hug, and not a big to do. And that would be the end of that. So anyway, I'm sorry my mother can't be here, but I just wanted to speak for her and just tell everyone what a special relationship that she and Natalie had.
So I'd like to say a few words. I've been around the family for 35 years, so I don't remember that part of the Randy Natalie story that Joel was talking about. But I heard it said somewhere along the line about your grandmother, who I had met Slava, but I never met Mommy Ella. I heard it said that she never had an unkind word to say about anyone. And you could say you guys saw other parts of your mother, but you know, in her public persona, you could say that about her, and you see somebody's life in their legacy of family. And you were speaking yesterday, Raizel, about your mother's involvement in community and her hospitality, and it was like you were okay. So you wear tie-dye and she wears designer, all dressed, but you were cut from the same tree and from the same mold in that way. And you and your two brothers, Pace and AJ, your commitments to Jewish life and to community and to family is it's part of your mother and your father's legacy. So I bless you, all three of you, to continue her legacy, because it was very beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else has a story?
Raizel, I just something short. I'm glad this is Mark Biller. I'm glad that your cousin.
Mark and Ellen, I know each other from Toronto, and also they lived in where were you? New Jersey, and I took my mother on a trip to the Berkshires, and I would stop at your place for lunch, and so you did meet my mother going and coming.
Right.
In the active years.
Right. And we knew you when you were Randy and when you morphed into Raizel.
And you showed up at our wedding in Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's right.
Elle did, yeah.
That's right. Me and the Giles.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to mention, your cousin mentioned posture. So this isn't a story, but Raizel ran, when she was running the Jewish Student Union at the University in Toronto, she started what was a kosher vegetarian co-op, which was very radical in around 1980. And my brother lived there. And there were about 4 people that shared the house. And they decided to do parents' night, which was kind of hilarious. So all the parents of the college-age kids living there were invited one night. And your mother was visiting, I guess, from Knoxville. And she just sat at the couch in that bay window And the word posture just says it all. She was just like this reigning presence in the room. And that's a very strong memory I have of you. And my father, who was very quiet and a real gentleman, and didn't make many comments like this, just quietly said to me, "She's just so beautiful." And that's really what she was. She was just an elegant presence, and I wanted to share that image with you.
Thank you.
She may have been in culture shock that night.
May have been.
Randy, do you remember that time that Linda and I were in Toronto and your mother happened to be there on that purple couch and we started putting all those hats and all your beads and stuff on her? Because I still have those pictures if I can get them from somewhere.
Please dig them up.
She was a good sport. She let us dress her up.
She was a great sport. She was a great sport. That kind of says it all. She really was. She really was. And it's interesting you're all talking about her posture, because she was like 5'7" or something. But then the last few years she was, bent over and everything. It was a whole different image of her, but she still held the regalness of the posture, even over. Anybody else want to chime in?
I do.
Who's that? Mark.
Mark.
Oh, Mark Bernstein. Okay.
If I can get it out, getting a little emotional as I get older. Simply, I remember when you came to the lake, when you were just courting Randy, and Natalie had us all on very best behavior.
What does that mean?
We didn't want to screw that thing up. But I wanted to speak very briefly, and I think Eli's right. The way people describe your mother is a way that we all knew her. Your father was very nuanced. When I think about going to the lake, I think about what he had in the bathroom and the shower and all those kind of things. But I wanted to say that there's Harvey and Marilyn, and there's Sam and Sue, and Barb and Bern, but there was only one Mrs. Robinson. And she asked many times for me to call her Natalie, but for those of us who knew her as Mrs. Robinson, she was one of a kind. And those of you, I came to the Shabbat dinner afterwards with Scott Dreyer, and probably still a little intimidated by your mom, but spent many a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah and a trip to St. Thomas. And she was a lot of fun. And the interesting and interested is not something that people say just to be nice. She was really that way, but I could never call her Natalie. She was Mrs. Robinson. And I think that was the aura that she projected to all of Knoxville.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't have a story. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have many stories because I have a million stories about Natalie. And we've all heard wonderful things about Natalie, regal and beautiful and truthful. But Natalie, I think the most important thing about her was she didn't think she was all those things. Natalie was a very modest, down-to-earth person with her wonderful giggle. She did not think of herself as beautiful, as regal. All of the things we're describing, we knew, but she didn't. She was a very modest lady, and I really knew her. That's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Pessa, are you awake enough to tell a story? Yeah, are you?
Oh, Nate?
Oh, Lori, it's in the house.
Hi.
Hey.
I just had a big old piece of dark chocolate for Aunt Nat. It was disgusting, but she would have loved it. Right?
Right.
I mean, it was as black as night. and so bitter. Ugh. But she loved it. So I just had some hot tea and a big old piece of dark chocolate for Aunt Nat.
So this is my cousin Lori. And when I went the last time before these last few days where I was in the hospital where it was clear she was going to go, and I saw her at a window visit, and she knew who I was, but she was very distracted, and I sent in a box of dark chocolate and ginger dark, the darkest you could. And so she was like very spacey, distracted, but she got that dark chocolate and she put it in her mouth and her eyes just lit up.
Right?
So that was till the end. The dark chocolate was the key to.
Chocolate is life.
Chocolate. That's right. Thank you.
But only that dark, I mean, like black as night. She loved it. She loved it.
Okay.
So that was my tribute to Nat tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think maybe we'll do a wrap on that Khatima. That's kind of says it all, and turn it back over to Juliet to put us a closure in some.
I want to before we move to Simcha for the final introduction to the final Kaddish, just want to repeat that last line of Psalm 23. Surely good and loving kindness will pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall come to dwell inside the house of the Eternal for length of days. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni, ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai, kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veitya, v'shavti b'veitya, li'orech yamim, li'orech yamim. Sam, if you could take it away.
Not the screen share just yet. So less is more at this point. So I just want to say that in saying Kaddish, I want to say this to my brothers-in-laws. Razel's heard me say this. You know, in this culture, people come up to you on day one and say, how you doing? And on day 3, they check in. On day 5, grief becomes invisible. And it could be very lonely at times, being in mourning. But Judaism has this minyan, and you're going to be saying Kaddish this year on Zoom at a time when there have never been so many minyanim saying Zoom minyanim in the history of the Jewish people. There's never been so many Kaddishes said via Zoom at any other point in the history of the Jewish people. So that know that when you're saying your Kaddish, you're not only aligning throughout time and space with others who have said Kaddish before, and I'll say more about that maybe another night this week, but you're aligning with all of those electronic connections of people, men and women who are saying Kaddish and remembering, or for Uncle Jarvin, also remembering a sibling. So remembering a parent, remembering a sibling. So may the words of your Kaddish be there all year long to connect you with others and with the legacy of your parent. Amen.
Amen. We'll rise for the Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkadash Merabah.
Amen.
Amen.
Yama divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמך ברוך לעולמי עולם. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. המקום ינחם אתכם בתוך שער אבלי ציון, ירושלים, ועל כל יושבי תבל. We offer and hold you in comfort, all the mourners, and thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you all. Thank Jeff Salter for saving
thank you,
lives
Jeff.
here with the Siddur, and we will see if we can plan ahead a little bit more. For it's been New Year's weekend, Shabbos, and we will plan ahead for the next few nights. And thank you all for being here. Anybody who's too tired can certainly feel free to leave. And if anybody just wants to linger for a little bit and say something or sing a song or something like that, I'll hang out here for a while. And yeah.
I want to say something.
I don't know if she heard you. 1 second.
Did you?
No, she may not have heard you.
Dina, is that you?
Nora wants to say something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I connect with the Arabic side of.
Yes. Norman's my father's first cousin.
That's right. And we had a very distinguished grandfather who was rich in thinking about Yadut and the livelihood of Jewishness. What I appreciated about this conversation, which I thought was wonderful and a little sad, wonderful in the sense that there were many levels of what it meant to be a part of Natalie's life. And all of us, I think, benefited from her, and we're able to learn things from her. I guess I don't want to say very much other than I admired Natalie for all the reasons everyone else has said. And I will always appreciate her hospitality. Even after I messed up what do you call it? My tent.
You they don't know the story. You camped with the kids at the lake, and she brought you into the house or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were stories about that part of the family as well. I also had the privilege of being a part of the wedding party of. Raisins.
Yes. Norman, I know you came down here and camped on the lake grounds with your boys when you were younger.
Very true.
Yes.
Well, thanks for that. You can always do it in, end of January. What's that?
I know, but
Much love.
So this is I'm asking the grandchildren to think about maybe Mommy Nat said something to you that we don't know. So think about a story you may want to tell later this week. And I see a lot of my beloveds out there. I'm really appreciating you being here. Really, 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 really. Simcha and I are flying out tomorrow morning to Florida. So we will be on Zoom. We will be on Zoom tomorrow night. And I'm going to set up Kaddish Minyan through Shloshim. I'm going to ask some of my friends to lead that. If you want to be on that list or be notified of that, just put your email in the chat or shoot me an email, and I'll keep you posted in case you're not on any of my other lists. Like I see a lot of people out there that wouldn't be on my list. So anybody else with the story or anything they want to say or sing or anything? We'll just, if not, we'll just hang out here until
Raise, is there anything you'd like to sing?
I can sing the song that I wrote for my mother. Just a second. Let me find it.
Okay.
When I didn't know if I was going to see her again last summer, and I drove to Atlanta, and I wrote her this song because it was such liminal time, and I just didn't know where we would be. Hold on a second. Guys, can you be quiet? I told this story at the funeral about how I looked at my mother's hands and realized we had the same hand. So there's a line from Isaiah 49:16, "You're engraved upon my hand." You're engraved upon my hand. You reside within my heart. Memories are in my mind. You are with me always. Comings and goings, living in the unknowing, beginnings and endings. I'm glad we've had this time. I love you, thank you, forgive me. I'm grateful for what you've given me. I'm with you always. Comings and goings, living in the unknowing, beginnings and endings. I'm glad we've had this time. I'm thankful for this time with you, grateful for what I know is true. The love between us will remain. You are with me always. Comings and goings, living in the unknowing, beginnings and endings. I'm glad we've had this time. Nivarech et darkeinu, Shechina tishmereinu, Malachim goalim et chayenu. Shechina tishmerech mekora, תשמור את נפשך, שכינה תשמור תצאך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. ברוכה את בבואך וברוכה את בצאתך, כי מלאכיו יצווה לך, תשמור בכל דרכך. Yalai da dum bum, buddy dum bum bum, buddy dum bum. Yai da dee da dee da dum ba da dee da dum ba dum. Comings and going, living in the unknowing, beginnings and endings. I'm glad we've had this time. So in this time of just, thank you. In this time of total uncertainty, I mean, I have been on I left Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, drove to Virginia, drove to Tennessee, drove to Atlanta, thinking I would get in to see my mother. Couldn't get in because there was COVID in the building. Waited around a few days to see if I would get in. But then we heard she got COVID, so I didn't think I could get in. And then I drove to Florida. I was in it. And then I got the message I better come back. So then I flew back to Atlanta, and I was there for like 3 or 4 days, and then drove to Tennessee yesterday, and I'm flying to Florida tomorrow. So in 2 weeks, I've been in a different bed every 2 or 3 days. And most of it I've done alone. So I feel like that this has been a real test and an initiation of some sorts to lean into the experience of what it's going to be in some ways. So anyway, thank you all for being here. And
Hazel?
yes, who's that? Bruce.
Bruce
and Judy, who were with me in Spain last year.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're going to Morocco next year.
Maybe we can sing to you and your siblings.
Sing on. My
coming.
siblings have probably faded by now.
Okay, then just do it.
But I'll take a song.
Okay. Hamakom yinachem etchem. Hamakom yinachem etchem. Betoch sha'ar avelei Tzion Yerushalayim. Betoch sha'ar avelei Tzion Yerushalayim. May the one who dwells in every place, may the one who dwells in every place comfort you and bring you peace among all those who mourn. Comfort you and bring you peace among all those who mourn. Hamakom yinachem etchem.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I remember singing in the mikveh in Spain. You two are appreciate it a lot. As you can tell, my families are full of characters. So those of you who were on here before, I think most of my Asher's still on here. Most of my Yigdal's still on here.
Yeah, it's them who are the characters. Uh-huh. Okay, just checking.
Well, it must be in the genes. I don't know. Hi. So thank you for being here. Thank you. And Shavua Tov. It's a big Havdalah. Like, the first week where my mother's not in the world. It's a big Havdalah, and I lingered at the grave yesterday, just watching the gravediggers fill in, right? Because everybody left, and that was quite an experience in and of itself. And I was, hanging out with the gravediggers, talking to them, and they said, "Yeah, this is our season. People just leave during this season." And I actually Googled it, and most people die. The biggest day of the year for deaths is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And that is when my mother left. She joined the party. That is the biggest day of the year. And it just, I don't know, just struck me. It was interesting. She wanted to be close the case on 2020 so that 2021 would be a better year. I mean, it is, it is absurd that I'm sitting on a porch outside in the cold, and my brother's in this house. He doesn't want me to come in because of COVID. Simpla's in that house, and there's fireworks going off in the background. Like, just put it in I'm actually afraid if life goes back to normal, I'll be bored to death. Whoa, we've kind of gotten used to this. It's really strange, awful, and it's just when you get to the point of awful that it becomes ridiculous. That's how I feel like I'm living. It's just ridiculous. So if it goes back to normal, it just may be boring. I don't know.
But, I just want to say, I was also aware of how wide the net was of who was here for the Shiva and who will be here during the week. That we were on the West Coast. We were, we were in Canada. We were on the West Coast. We were in Florida. So that we couldn't have had if they would have let, if had it been a normal situation, you didn't have to sit on the porch. So.
Good. All right. Well, I love you all. Come join me another night because we have to pack and fly out of here tomorrow, but I'll be here all week. So.
Love you, girl.
Yeah. Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you, Juliet and Phil.
Thank you, Juliet and Phil. Thank you for jumping in here. Thank you.
Jeff Saltar's here. Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff Saltar saved the night. I appreciate a room with the rabbi needs a siddur. Okay. Love you guys.
Love you.
Asher, you there?
Hey, Keela.
Yeah, I want to thank Asher for being our tech support here. Asher and Laura, who are handling the waiting room and the entries, and appreciate it. Okay. Ash, it's your call when to shut us down here, buddy. Okay. Love you.